how they performed from what you've been heard?
Yeah, this is always the time of year where you have to kind of go off of what your other players are telling you about skills and drills, and obviously our strength coach and strength staff have been working with those guys and really have had a lot of really good things to say about them. Our wide receivers, veteran guys, have been very impressed with T and Amari. And in the skills and drills, obviously they're trying to figure out what's going on and learn the offense. But the early reports have been very, very good, and I'm obviously excited about getting out there with them here in a couple weeks and getting on the grass. And you recruit these guys for 2 and 3 years, and then you have to wait till August before you can really get on the field with them for the first time. But as a coach, there's nothing more exciting than really getting that next group of guys coming in and be able to get out there with them for the first couple of weeks and see exactly how they respond, how quickly they can pick things up and learn. But I think both of those guys are going to be fun guys to watch this fall camp.
What's your goal for them to get them ready for camp? I mean, for the season, do you think they can be there where they can help y'all the first 2 games?
I really do. It's hard to guess. I can remember about 5 years ago, Sammy Watkins was coming in. 5 or 6 years ago now, the years are running together. Sammy was coming in, and my dad and I were having a conversation about this time of year, right around the media time, and kind of talking about, when do you think Sammy will be ready? And my prediction, of course, hadn't worked with him at all, just kind of listening and obviously watching him in high school. I said, right about game 3, game 4, Auburn, Florida State, right when we get there, I think that'll probably be the time he'll be ready. And then after the first practice, I went to my dad and said, I think he's ready. We've been out there in shorts for 1 day. Now, that's the extreme, right? We've had some very talented guys. And
he's a terrific coach.
He's I said, I did a whole lot in that one practice right there. But so the point of that is you really never know. But the little that I do know from recruiting them, being around them, I think they both have the skill set. I really think we're recruiting at a point. That's what I tell a lot of these wide receivers that are coming in. The guys that we're recruiting now, all of these guys have the ability to play early. And I think the good news for both T and Amari is they're not going to be forced to have to go out there. There were some years where these talented guys were coming in and they really had to play early. And they had to kind of learn by fire a little bit. I don't think T or Amari is going to be in that situation, but if they show enough during fall camp where they're ready, then we've definitely shown in the past that we're going to play freshmen and give those guys early opportunities. And then how they do early kind of depends on maybe how much more opportunity they get through those next few games early in the year. But it's obviously very early to predict that. But I'm very optimistic that both of those will have an opportunity to help us this fall.
Jeff, Coach Sweeney keeps talking about, we're not worried about the guys who aren't here, just the guys who are here. Are we and outsiders making too much of the losses on offense, or do you still gulp every once in a while when, Deshaun, there's no Deshaun, there's no Wayne, there's no Jordan, there's no Mike, there's no...
Well, I think, number one, we like it that y'all are talking that way. It makes our job a lot easier in getting our guys' attention. But, I just go back to, and as coaches, you just go back to previous experiences in the past. And I can remember, sitting right here on this porch talking about how in the world are we going to replace Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Andre Ellington, and Dwayne Allen. And now I find ourselves 4 or 5 years later, and we're having the exact same conversation. And so I think that's where good programs, it's one of the things they do is they replace talented guys. And I think that's been our message. Coach Sweeney's message to our guys is, hey, I'm not looking for somebody to come be Deshaun Watson. I'm not looking for a wideout to come be Mike Williams. I just want you guys to be your best, because you guys are talented enough that if you hold yourself to that standard and you work to be your best as an individual, then we're going to have more than enough talent to do what we need to do to be successful. And so, I think obviously, that's in the back of your mind, but that's kind of the in college coaching, that's what you're going to have. You know that, and that's one reason that recruiting is so important. And recruiting is not just some game in the off season where you got a chance to compete. It's important for years like this when you are replacing a lot of guys, and 78% of the offensive production has left the building, and so I think that 22% of production that was here, those guys have a lot of pride. And also when you look at that, you got to remember that, it's when you're talking about 78% of the production's leaving and 22% is coming back, it's not like you gave even opportunity to everybody in the room, and that the 78% that did the best, they're all leaving. Obviously, those guys were the ones that got the opportunity. And so now it's guys like Deion Kane, who has never been a starter, but have had a lot of success, now taking that next step. A guy like Ray McLeod that's done some good things and had some up and downs, and now all of a sudden have a chance to go out there and be that starter. And now, can you embrace that role? And our big message to our guys is, hey, we want to improve every year. And let's don't worry about the record, the national championship, but offensively, can we get better? And that's those guys' job and our job as coaches to be sure that we get better every year.
Jeff, what makes Hunter so successful? Because if you look at him and didn't know he played football, you wouldn't think he played football.
I don't like talking about Hunter this early in the year. This is the first off season that we've talked about Hunter. Usually we talk about him in December and January, so I'm not sure. This is new territory for him. I'm gonna have to call him on the way home. Tell him I got a question about him at the media day for the first time in his career. But I think Hunter has a very unique skill set, and where he plays in the slot. His change of direction, his understanding of route running, understanding of defenses, just the ability to get open, I think, is what is so special about Hunter. And he just fits the role that he has. And I think that's a big thing as coaches. We got a lot of talented guys, but it's our job. Coach Sweeney really talks all the time about getting the guys on the right seat, on that bus. And I think Hunter's in the right seat. He's a perfect player and skill set for the role that he has. But just, he's a coach's son. He's grown up around it. And but he has a very unique ability to separate in zone coverage and man coverage and do a lot of things. And but this will be just kind of like 2 years ago when Clemson kind of was up and coming, and then all of a sudden you got that bullseye on your back. It's going to be a different year for him. He's not going to sneak up on anybody this year, maybe where he has a little bit the last 2 years.
Did he always, when he talks to us, he always downplays his own ability and jokes about, his size and talent and this and that. Did you at all worry that this success, the championship success might kind of alter that DNA, that character?
No, just because he is so, he's just such a humble young man. And I think that's why as coaches, Coach Sweeney and all of our, coaches on our staff, offensive guys, you just can't help but smile when he has success, because he just represents everything that you want in a young man. Just humble, hardworking, blue collar, wants to give everybody else the credit. But some guys you may worry about when they start having success, will they change or not? But Hunter's one of those guys that you don't worry one bit, because you just know. One funny story about Hunter is for, I guess it was this spring. It's late at night, we're leaving after spring practice, and I see a couple people standing outside of the football complex, looked like fans, and they had something they wanted to get autographed. And I've seen that plenty for the last few years for Deshaun Watson and all those guys, maybe people waiting after practice to try to get their autograph. And I asked them, is it late? Most of the players had already left, and I said, can I help you? And he said, yeah, we're all out here waiting on Hunter Renfro. And so sure enough, Hunter walked out about that time, and I just kind of laughed, saying, man, 2 years ago we'd have never expected that the people would be waiting outside our football building to get Hunter's autograph. But he just takes it in stride, and a very humble young man, and somebody we're very proud that he's representing our university.
Does it bother him to hear Chris Fowler say on their playback, that little man does it again? Does that kind of thing bother him?
I don't think so at all. I think he, Coach Sweeney kind of is the one that started it, correctly stating that he looked more like a manager or trainer than a football player. And so I think he's kind of bought into that and has fun with that, and just kind of fits his personality. But he knows deep down with the success that he's had the last 2 years that he's a very talented guy. He's one of our leaders and a guy that we're going to count on this season, really, to help this offense with some of these new guys coming up.
Are you surprised the defenses still allow him to get open somehow, whether it be Florida State game, whether it be the Alabama? Seems like somehow it's like they forget about him in key moments.
Yeah, I think it's it's difficult. I think when you have a lot of talented players, you got Mike Williams on one side and Artavis Scott on the other side and Jordan Leggett lined up in the slot. Yes, we know Hunter is very talented, but you've only got two eyes, and you got a lot of weapons out there, and I think that's been part of the reason for our success is having multiple weapons where guys can't really get focused on one or two guys. But going into the national championship game against Alabama, there were a lot of comments by their players of, hey, last year we didn't really know who he was, and he's not going to sneak up on us this time. And that's one of the messages that I kind of had to Hunter and our wideouts, and maybe even to the offense is, what's going to happen when it happens again? Even after they've been saying this, then really panic really starts setting in, and they really start arguing or getting frustrated on the other side. And so sure enough, it kind of happened that way. And so, but I think if you look at great players, no matter what position, they continue to have success, even though people know, Vic Beasley's a tough guy to block off the edge. He still has that success because he's a talented player, and it comes down to fundamentals and technique to go along with your skill set that you have, and that's kind of who Hunter is. These guys are obviously working hard to stop him, but he's working hard to continue to find ways to get open, and that's what great players do.